I do want to try and make sure that we're kind of on time. Now, Jaden almost always gets the first word and the last word, actually, at these presentations. So, Jaden, can you say hi to everybody? And you have to applaud for him. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Perfect, yeah. So we have to update our bio, by the way, as well. Actually, I forgot to grab the clicker. I think the clicker is right here, probably, right? Perfect. So forgot to update the bio. Jaden's 22 today. So it's his 22nd birthday now. So, but we'll do something about that a little bit later. So, start with this quote, and it's interesting. I was going to skip by the very first video. I've got like a 30. No, well, we're actually. Let's listen. Yeah. So we had something planned for him here, but we were going to do it after, but we're going to do it right now because Jaden loves to blow out candles too. So Jaden, look, we got you a little birthday cake. Well, we'll get it lit here, and then you're gonna. Do you want to blow out the candles too? Here, just 1 second, okay? Ready? Ready? Give it a. There you go. Okay, so now we'll have this later, okay? Here. Otherwise, we'll do the entire presentation with chocolate all over our faces. So Isabel, talking about her son singing, I was actually going to blow through the very first video that I have here because I've got a limited time frame and I can't do everything that I do, but it's 35 seconds long, and I felt like maybe I should show it after the talk about singing. So just to give you a context, a real quick context, when we shared this on Facebook last year, you kind of noticed Jaden sang along with Happy Birthday. He's just started doing this in the last couple of years, and last year my daughter captured with an iPhone a moment where Jaden sang a song that we've been singing since he was a little kid, and it got 1.4 million views on Facebook when we shared it. It just went crazy on Facebook, and it just speaks to Jaden's connection with people. So I'll let that one run first. I was gonna run through it. Okay, will it? Well, maybe I won't. Let's see if it plays. Oh, okay. Can we get that to play or won't it? No. Okay, we won't get it to play. So I think that we'll skip it, but trust me, it's on my Facebook page. I'll move it to the top of the Facebook page later and you can see it there. Wait. Okay, here we go. And one of the first comments that we got on that video when we first shared it was from someone who was on the autism spectrum themselves, and they said, "Wow, you have a lot of remotes." So there's, I think, 8 or 9 remotes there on the page beside, but anyway, thank you so much, and a few thank yous. Miroslava and Angela from the organization, soon to be formerly known as Handicap International, I guess. Thank you so much for setting this up in the first place, and that introduction to the Harkin Summit. And then we talked to Andy and Dorothy, and we are so appreciative that you thought it would be worthwhile to have us come and share here. Yesterday was such a fantastic day. We spent the whole day here yesterday and hearing from so many people. And Senator Harkin, thank you so much for a lifetime of dedication to families just like ours, and you can't possibly know how much that means to us. So thank you so much for having us be a part of what you're doing here today. Now, we speak often to university classes, and one of the things that I say to university classes is you have 960 minutes every day. If you're awake the normal amount of time, 16 hours, that's 960 minutes to invest every day. That's a lot of minutes, and you can do anything. Every day you wake up with a new 960 minutes that you can invest any way you want. Now, when you take a look at this room collectively and how many people are here at this conference, that adds up to about 200,000 minutes that we have every single day to invest in the things that are important to us. So yesterday, there was some talk about some adjectives. We were talking about different adjectives. Someone brought up aggressive, someone brought up proactive. I've got a few adjectives that I like to use when I'm talking about what we're trying to accomplish. Right now, we're working on a global autism partnership, something really, really big, a really big vision. And some of the adjectives that I use when I think of the 200,000 minutes, organized. You know, we as communities need to be really, really organized to get the most out of those 200,000 minutes that you might have collectively in this room. I think about assertive, impatient. Today I had breakfast with Tim Shriver from Special Olympics, and he repeatedly brought up the word relentless, and it's a word that we use oftentimes as well. But we also need to be unified. You know, too often as organizations, we're speaking in 100 different languages to people that make decisions on policy, and we need to be more unified. We need to find those things that we can agree on so that we can provide a clear message, and clear is another adjective. And I think that really when you take a look at the political discourse, not just here in the States, but in Canada and around the world, the word respectful comes to mind. You know, I think that if we're really, really going to make a difference in terms of policy, you know, our language needs to, you're not going to get very far by saying, you're an idiot, can you help me? You know, we're going to move more forward when we, you know, when we're respectful in the tone. And I'm an elected official. Tom has a long history as an elected official. We come from probably different political backgrounds, and we might have some areas of disagreement, although I'm not sure we would have that many, you know, different countries. But one thing that I can say is that people that I know from any party, any country, you get involved generally because you want to make a difference. And people don't live the same life that we live. They don't live the same life that you live, and they don't have those same experiences. So if you can respectfully share your life experience with elected officials in a respectful way, I think that we have the opportunity, especially if we're impatient and relentless and assertive, we have the opportunity to really, really make a difference and change people's lives. I want to talk a little bit about Jaden here. So we've got 3 videos that I'm going to share that share a little bit about Jaden's life. Now, interestingly, with these 3 videos, each of them at some point in time was the closing point to my presentation. And then each time we said, we got more to tell here, so we need to add something to it. The first video that we're going to show is from Jaden's grade 11 years, so just a few years ago. And it's a really great example of inclusion. Jaden went to a K-12 school. He had a full-time aide with him, and he was in a regular classroom from K-12. And during that time in that classroom, the kids really developed a relationship. They got a chance to see what he was interested in, what he liked. He really liked movies. He really liked The Sound of Music. He was obsessed with The Sound of Music when he was a kid. We watched it probably about 200 times. So I liked The Sound of Music probably the first 100 times. But yeah, and now he wants to hear about The Sound of Music, but we could just go back afterwards and watch Sound of Music again today. But anyway, the kids and the teachers realized, you know what, he might be interested in musical theater. So how do you include a kid with autism in musical theater? The first year, grade 10, they got him involved in Oliver. And the role that he had in Oliver was basically in the crowd scenes. He would basically mill about, and they made his face kind of dirty, and he looked like one of the townspeople. And he was in 2 scenes, and they just made sure that he didn't run off the stage. And you know, if you knew what you were looking for, if you didn't know what you were looking for, you didn't even notice Jaden as part of it. But if you knew what you were looking for, he was the kid that was staring at his grandma the entire time instead of pretending like he was talking to anybody else. The second year, they did Bye Bye Birdie, and Global Television came out and did this story on it.
Millwood's Christian School debuted Bye Bye Birdie at the Paramount Theater in just under an hour. In the musical, a rock star named Conrad Birdie is the fan favorite, but in real life, it's Jaden Lake, a nonverbal student with an important message for his castmates. Laurel Clark explains why.
The cast members of Bye Bye Birdie loosen their vocal cords with a classic scale. But their rehearsal isn't complete without one more exercise, a run they've come to know as Jaden's warm-up. They sing ba 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 because it's the only sound 17-year-old Jaden makes. The grade 11 student has autism and is nonverbal.
Let's face it, including a kid with autism in the musical theater performance is a risk for them. I mean, everybody wants that performance to be perfect, right? And when you include Jaden in there, you run the risk that he's going to squeal at an inopportune time because he's so excited to be there, or that he's going to start to wander off the edge of the stage somewhere because he sees something that's interesting.
That hasn't happened. In fact, you only need to watch one number to see Jaden is like any other cast member. He's just performing with the help of a buddy system.
We just hold his hand to guide him which place to go, and if he's going off somewhere, we watch over him. And yeah, he's like a brother.
Jaden has always loved music. The sound of music is one of his favorites. He doesn't sing, but his mom says musical theater plays to other strengths.
Because he loves routine, you've memorized a pattern for, you know, how they take him on stage, how they take him off stage. That makes him thrive. He loves order and pattern.
And his visual memory is so strong, choreographers know once they teach Jaden certain steps, they can't make any changes.
Whatever you teach Jaden, you're not going to be able to go back and say, hey, by the way, can you now do this? Because that first thing that we teach him is the thing that sticks in his mind.
Jaden's parents see changes in him, how content he is being part of the cast.
I think he just loves being part of a group of kids. You know, everybody likes to be part of a group even if they can't verbalize it, right?
Being part of the group, Jaden is enhancing his peers' performance too.
He's a fun person to be with. He also encourages the other casts, just high-fiving everyone.
And so, in just a few months, without singing a single word, Jaden has taught these students something his teacher wants them to remember long after curtain call.
They can just stop and go, you know what, there is a value to absolutely every person.
And when you accept someone unconditionally, you allow them to shine too. Laurel Clark, Global News.
Aww. Bye Bye Birdie shows at the Paramount Theater tonight and tomorrow at 7 p.m. Well,
the Oz keep going for a little while there, so I'll skip the rest of that. So in his grade 12 year, they did Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, and it was kind of cool because they took it another level. One of the girls asked if she could be Jaden's wife in the play, and there's 12 partners dancing throughout that play, and she taught Jaden all of the moves that the other kids were doing, and you know, she just modified a few things. So if the other boys were picking up a girl by the waist and throwing her in the air, she had Jaden put his hands on her waist, and then she jumped while he moved his hands up in the air, and it looked very similar to what everybody else was doing. It was amazing. But when that was the end of my video and that was the end of my presentation, it left everybody feeling good about inclusion, and you kind of see Jaden in musical theater and you think, you know, that's something that I might not have expected. But as Jaden's dad, one of the things that I think is important to say is Jaden has fun at musical theater. But like a lot of the people in that musical theater, almost everybody in that musical theater production, Jaden's not going to have a career probably in musical theater. That's okay to admit. It was a real stretch for him, and it was really, really cool. But it's probably not where he's going to contribute his skills and abilities. And so my talk generally is called Expect More in Autism Adventure. And the idea is that we need to move beyond inclusion to contribution, in a sense. Now, one of the most incredible things about Jaden being included in musical theater is these kids clearly have an interest in him. They clearly care about him. They've gotten to know him over time. But because they've gotten to know him over time, because he's been included all that time, they've seen him display incredible skills and abilities over that time as well. So when Jaden was really, really young, he was unbelievable at his times tables. The fastest kid in the room in grades 1 to 4 at his times tables. Spelling tests, he got 100% almost all the time. He loves to spell. I brought this board out because I thought that it might be a good way to show you something that Jaden did this when he was, I don't know, about 2 years old. And we haven't done it that many times, but you know those foam letters that you use to teach kids the alphabet? So one time we were at an Oilers game. I worked at the Oilers, and a friend of ours just took the foam letters that Jaden was playing with, and he took away the frame and just laid them all in a jumble and then put the A down. Jaden was too young to be able to actually do the alphabet forwards, but he proceeded to put the alphabet in forwards order as fast as he could put it, as fast as you or I would put it. And then the friend decided that he wanted to put we call it a Z, okay, Z, down. And, whoops, let's see if this works. And Jaden proceeded to do this. So, and he does that faster than most of us could do the alphabet forward. And so you start to sort of understand that he sees the world differently, and you start to see some potential for him that goes beyond just being included in an endless series of field trips for the rest of his life on things that make him happy. He has a role to play. He has different things that we can start to see, and every single one of us have these things. We just, for some reason, with people like Jaden, we don't take the time to look for them like we take the time to look for them with every other kid. And so I had a friend who was a reporter at CTV, and I asked her to come out and said, I need a different story told. And she came out, this story ran on the CTV National News in Jaden's grade 12 year.
Now, that stigma often follows children into adulthood, holding them back from their full potential. But the tide may be turning. Tonight, we have the story of one young man who shows what can be achieved if given a chance. Here's CTV's Alberta Bureau Chief, Janet Dirks.
When it comes to putting away library books, Jaden Lake leaves others in the dust.
Jaden, can you do these ones too?
He's not just fast, he's accurate.
He's better than us at most of these tasks. He just knows exactly where everything goes and how to do it.
Jaden has autism. He was diagnosed when he was 2. Now 19, he volunteers at this school library in Edmonton. While he's nonverbal, he's an enthusiastic worker.
You like working in the library, Jaden?
Jaden also catalogs and labels and works with computers.
He could work in an office or a bank or, you know, anywhere where there is numbers and organization.
He's excited to work. He's excited to keep working.
Jaden's father is Edmonton MP Mike Lake. He wants employers to give adults with autism a chance.
He wouldn't be able to do a job interview. That would be a challenge for him. So if he wanted to work in a library or a warehouse or somewhere where he would be able to use these skills, he would need somebody to help him. He would need somebody to communicate for him and explain what it is that he's good at.
Research shows adults with autism spectrum disorder are underemployed. An Ontario study revealed only 13% work full-time. Just 6% have part-time jobs. In Calgary, Garth Johnson wants to change that. His company connects businesses with adults with autism in software and website testing.
Dedication, commitment, focus. They will do this job again and again and again for a long time, a lot longer than we would do jobs, and still love it.
Advocates for people with autism say it's not about charity, it's about creating opportunities, and workplaces stand to benefit most of all. Janet Dirks, CTV News, Calgary.
When you see that video, actually, it's interesting because you don't even see the full picture. That doesn't even capture how good Jaden is in the library. He'll be walking by with a pile of books, putting the books away, and all of a sudden he'll grab a book off the shelf and put it somewhere else because he notices that it's in the wrong place. How many of you, when you're walking by a bookshelf, will notice a book in the wrong place just as you're walking by? Also, how many of you cry at the end of your shift because you want to keep working? Jaden loves to work, and when he's done working, he oftentimes, he will actually, Jaden's very honest with his emotions, and he'll cry sometimes because he wants to keep working, because he just loves to work, don't you? You love to work in the library, you love to do laundry, you love to put the dishes away from the dishwasher, right? Anything that involves sort of the concrete taking of something from one place and moving it to another. Now, how transferable is that skill? It's absolutely transferable in so many areas if he's given a chance. The next video, the last video that I'm going to show you, so Jaden and I get a chance to travel, and one of the things that really strikes me is that, you know, while we talk about sort of these concrete things that Jaden deals with, and while he may deal with sort of his social world a little bit differently, Jaden is probably more connected to people than anybody I've ever met. He probably has more impact on people, and Isabel talked about this in the introduction, than anybody that I've ever met. And we get the chance to travel and talk. The clip is of us speaking to 15,000 students at We Day. This was in Saskatoon about a year ago, just over a year ago. And it just strikes me the more and more that we do this, that there is no way that I could do this without Jaden. You know, I'm up here telling stories, but it makes a complete difference when I'm telling stories and able to show you videos in action of Jaden's life. And really, it's his story, and I'm telling it. But he couldn't do it without me. right? He couldn't do it without me because he needs my voice to be able to tell the stories a little bit. It wouldn't be the same either way. And that's, you know, that's obviously a metaphor for everybody in this room. It's a metaphor for people that, without developmental disabilities, we need each other to be successful. And just like without either of us up here, the presentation would be less. That's exactly the same as our work environments. And Randy spoke about this yesterday. Mark Wafer and I talk about this all the time, and we had a chance to hear from him yesterday as well. So this is Jaden and I at We Day in about a year and a half ago. The best part of this clip, in my view, is the last 45 seconds where my 13-year-old daughter, there's a clip of my 13-year-old daughter explaining what it's like to have a brother with autism. And I love the fact that the smartest thing that's ever been said in anything I've ever done came from my 13-year-old daughter.
Sharing with others is much more than about sharing your own talents. It's about taking the time to discover the talents and the gifts that your peers have as well. So here to tell us more are Edmonton MP Mike Lake and his son Jaden. Give it up!
Hey, We Day. What a fantastic day. So I'm going to introduce you to Jaden right now, and I'm going to let him say hello, and then after he does that, you have to applaud for him, okay? So say hi to him. Jaden has autism, and sharing his story around the world is one of the most meaningful things we get to do. Jaden's unique impact can be linked to hundreds of young people like you who've invested in him over 20 years. Jaden's nonverbal, has trouble with abstract concepts. He'll cry when he's sad, or squeal loudly or giggle when he's happy. When something's on his mind, he'll grab my face and inquire with an escalating ba 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 until he gets the explanation he needs to move on with his life. He's obsessed, absolutely obsessed with dogs. Yeah, to the point where he'll go nose to nose with any dog, regardless of size, something we always have to be aware of. In my annual World Autism Day statement, I mentioned 4 years ago that Jaden was very much like other 16-year-olds. He loves baking chocolate chip cookies, working in the school library, and bowling with Dad on Saturday mornings. Jaden's sister, Janae, was quick to remind me at the time, Daddy, no other teenage boy loves doing those things. But Jaden the adult is very much like the Jaden we've known from childhood, almost inconceivably innocent. For those who don't know him, Jaden's really easy to underestimate. Yet for those who do get to know him, Jaden's upside is immeasurable. He's the friend who always believes the best about you, the worker who never wants his shift to end, and the student who makes all of the others better. He's the brother who loves his sister and isn't afraid to show it, and the son who every single day reminds his parents that there's incredible joy to be discovered in even life's most difficult circumstances. Make no mistake, autism and other developmental disabilities come with very real challenges. But as we work together to understand and address those challenges, our country will unearth a treasure of unique talents and abilities. We just need to take the time to look for them. Now here's a clip of Jaden with Janae, who at just 13 years old captured perfectly how we all feel about Jaden.
I'm going to ask you a really hard question here, okay? I know you can handle it, which is why I'm giving you the heads up on it ahead of time. Do you ever sometimes wish that your brother was quote unquote normal, like every other kid?
Well, honestly, since Jaden was diagnosed with autism before I was born, I don't exactly know what a normal brother is like. So Jaden kind of is my normal, like having autism and stuff. So I don't really wish that he was normal or anything.
You like him the way he is?
If he was like, if he didn't have autism anymore, or it was like cured or something, he wouldn't be the same as like Jaden was now.
So I'll leave you with this thought. The more that a normal life for Canadians includes people like Jaden, the more we can work together through the hard stuff and allow every single one of our brothers, sisters, neighbors, and friends to thrive. Thank you so much for including us in your day-to-day, and as I always do, I'm going to let Jaden have the last word. So say bye-bye to everybody. There you go. Thank you. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to get the time sign pretty soon. But I do want to close. I mean, first of all, you hear what Janae's words are there. And, you know, Janae's normal has always included Jaden. One of the things about that, though, is that she didn't have any say in that. You know, he was born before her, and so her life always included Jaden. The school, however, did have a say in it. And the school decided to include him at the maximum level they possibly could. And interestingly, when we put Jaden in a regular classroom and he had his full-time aide with him, we thought that was for Jaden. But to a student, to a person, every single one of those students will say that their life is better off because Jaden was in their classroom. They learned more about diversity because Jaden was in their classroom, and they saw more potential in him and see more potential in other people because they had the opportunity to go to school with Jaden throughout his life. And this is something that we need to do. To close, I want to just tell you about something that we're working on right now. We did a TEDx talk actually about 5 or 6 months ago that's posted, it's pinned to the top of my Facebook page. And what we talked about in there is around the Sustainable Development Goals. And by the way, I am the Deputy Shadow Minister. What that means is that we lost the election. So I'm not a minister, I'm a shadow minister, unfortunately. And so international development is where I work. We did this talk about the Sustainable Development Goals, and a big part of that talk was we used the analogy, the story of JFK and his mission to go to the moon, and how in 1962 he laid out this vision. 1969 America made it to the moon, but in the course of that endeavor to space, we accomplished so much more, and we have accomplished so much more. There's so many innovations that have come out of the time since then. Things like, you know, Velcro and shoe insoles and ear thermometers and CAT scans, some more meaningful than others. But it's a list of over thousands of innovations that have come that aren't directly related to space, but they were reached on the way. And in the TEDx talk that we do, we talk about the fact that as the world talks about the most vulnerable or the hardest to reach, leaving no one behind in the language of the Sustainable Development Goals, people have different ideas on who those people are. So some will mention a 13-year-old girl in rural Africa, incredibly vulnerable, or a little boy in a refugee camp in Syria. And what we say in the TEDx talk, and the point that we make, and it was made here yesterday by someone on the stage, is that in either of those cases, that 13-year-old girl in rural Africa or that little boy in a refugee camp in Syria, they could have a developmental disability on top of that. And how much more vulnerable would they be then? And if we can wire our hearts so that we can reach every 13-year-old girl in rural Africa with a developmental disability, autism or otherwise, or any disability, it's going to change the way that we view girls, and it's going to change our ability to impact all girls along the way. And if we can change the way that we view that little boy in a refugee camp in Syria with autism or another developmental disability, it's going to change the way we see refugees, and it's going to change the way we see all boys. And Tim Shriver in our breakfast this morning gave me something. I told him I was going to use it, and I'm going to use it right now to close. He talked about low-hanging fruit, and talked about how often we go for the low-hanging fruit. It's the easy way to accomplish big numbers sometimes toward these goals. But he said, if you build a ladder to reach the lowest hanging fruit, all you're ever going to be able to reach with that ladder is the lowest hanging fruit. If you build a ladder high enough to reach the fruit at the top of the tree, you're going to reach all of the fruit with that ladder. What a different way of thinking about things. So anyway, thank you so much for including us in your event, in your conference here today. And be ready. Jaden likes to give high fives, as you saw in the video there. So get your hand up if he comes. He only gets one per person, right, Jaden? One per person, right? Yeah, he wants to break that rule all the time. So one per person. I'll hold you all to that. But be ready, because you'll get it in the forehead if you don't have your hand up. So thank you so much. God bless you all. Say bye-bye.